Hi, and welcome to this video, which is going to be around training in hot weather, but mainly training in hot weather for your long runs, which tends to happen if you're training for an autumn marathon or an autumn event. Now, that's what I'm doing. I've got the Chester Marathon in the UK, which is at the same day as the London Marathon. So, a lot of people in the UK will now be training for those. And we're in the middle of what us people in Britain call a heat wave, which other people in the world go, "Mm." But we're all kind of have these issues. So I want to just share about 5 or 6 tips that I was thinking about when I did a long run this Sunday just gone, and it was 18 miles, and it was going to get up to, I think, about 25, 27 centigrade, or even hotter into the day. So that's what this video is going to be about. A lot of it's common sense, but it's kind of putting it all together that will help you as a runner to get the best out of it. So number one, be honest with yourself. So for me, I know one, I quite like running in the heat. If you see any of my videos and they're done, sorry, fly just flew into my glasses, that if you're kind of, I get attacked by a little fly. And I'm not redoing this video. If you see any of my videos doing kind of the winter, you'll see me wrapped up to the nine. So I do like the heat. So you've got to be honest with yourself. Where are you in your levels of fitness when you're hit by this heat wave, be it in the UK or elsewhere? How used to running in the heat are you? And be very honest. And if you're really unsure or you're really not fit enough, either cut the run back, don't do the run at all, because you've got to remember your why. Your why, not the overall why am I a runner, but why am I doing this workout? What is the purpose of this workout? So the long run is to get used to time on your feet, build up endurance, mini rehearsal for the event. So if your run can't do that for you, or it's going to mean that's going to take you 5, 6 days to recover from that run or more, and that means it interrupts the rest of your training, then the why isn't there. So, sometimes it's a case of don't do it. It's as simple as that. There are some upsides though. I mean, particularly in the UK, it's a national sport moaning about the weather. And if it gets hot, we all go completely crazy. But with what I just said in mind, there is an adaptation side of it. So, for instance, you could be training in the winter for a spring marathon and thinking, oh, lovely, I don't have to train in that heat. But as I found out in 2011, I did a marathon, spring marathon in Brighton, and I trained all in cool, British, cold, horrible weather. And I hit the marathon in April and it was 22 centigrade. And I suffered. I suffered horribly. Now, that made me for many reasons. I also suffered because there was a man dressed as Fat Elvis with the wig who was running faster than me, but only just faster than me, so that I could see him for most of the marathon. And I think I suffered as much with that as if nothing else. But that's because I hadn't trained in that heat. So it was going from comfortable training conditions to uncomfortable. Now, if you've got used to training in the heat, it's a bit like having rocks in a rucksack. If the adaptation makes you stronger, when it cools off, think result. And you're very unlikely in an autumn marathon to face that heat. But if you do, or something similar, you've trained in it. So there are some positives to this. And I prefer it to go that way and to have those struggles in my training. then have those struggles in the event. Whereas that's always a possibility training the other way round. So I would turn it around sometimes and see it as a positive. But when I go out, one of the things is it's mind over mattress. Get out early. Now, this is obvious, but people do like sleeping in. And I looked at our weather. It started out 5 at 17 centigrade. So I went out kind of just around about 6 a.m. I know 18 miles. I knew I'd be back before 9. I knew roughly how long it would take me to run that far. And so I made allowances for that. I see people getting up at 9, 8, 9. Well, in the UK, in this weather at the moment, it's getting hot by then. If you're going to be out there 2, 3 hours, you better be up to that kind of heat. Or, as I said earlier, change the time. But it's an obvious one. I won't go over it too hard here, but obviously take liquid. Take liquid that aren't just water, that will rehydrate you. Body salts, you're going to sweat. If you're bald like me, get a cap on. It's obvious stuff, but people don't always do it. Something a bit more controversial, forget or at least put to a side pace and heart rate. Pace, your body doesn't recognize pace. So, I run from the zones for heart rate, zones for pace, and zones for effort. If I ran to my zone 2, which is where this run was meant to be in, the pace of that I could perhaps keep, but the effort in the sun, it would be more than a zone 2. So it's not something I get too obsessed about in the heat. Heart rate can vary on both scales. So it can start out very high, it can dip, and really, yet again, I only use it as a secondary metric in hot weather. My main metric in hot weather is perceived effort. How does the effort feel? How do I feel? Then I check in with my watch, look at the pace, look at the heart rate, make a decision based around all those metrics. But the first and foremost metric is perceived effort. So I look at how does a zone 2 feel like, and how should it feel like, and checking in, does it still feel like that as the run progresses? Also, I put in some walk run into my little runs. These aren't trudges of defeat. These are specific breaks. You see professional footballers do it. In hot weather, they have a little mini breaks, and of course, all the supporters go, whoa. But if you want to think like an athlete, you've got to leave your ego at home. So I had like 2-minute walks, about 3, maybe 4 throughout the run. Just took in my surroundings, had a drink, just relaxed, started up my run again. Strategic walking is a good thing in this heat, and it gives you motivation to kind of carry on because you've got a little walk. As I say, I must stress, we're not talking about a trudge of defeat. We're talking about a strategic, nice pace walk while having a drink. Perhaps you choose your spot under some shade, get your heart rate back down again. Just give yourself a micro rest, off you go again. And how many of those you'd have would depend on your conditioning and how you're feeling. So it comes back to this perception of effort. If you're feeling that it's getting really tough, and the whole point is about being out on your feet, but not feeling like you're on some sort of mission. If it started to feel like that, then you walk more over that time. Split your runs over the week. Go for a shorter long run and perhaps build in more runs over the week so that it's built up over the week, if that works. I've even done, and this would depend on your ability, because in a way you are running more, but I've doubled up sometimes, done 2 shorter runs in a day, early and late. Yeah, again, you'd have to take a view on that depending on your ability and where you are in your training and how much running you've done in the past. But that can work. A shorter, earlier morning run, another fairly shortish evening run combined might make up 7-8 miles, but you've only been out in the sun a certain amount of time at the cooler end of the day. You can do that. That means that you could perhaps shorten your long run on the hotter day where you're going to be out in that time. Terrain. What's the terrain going to be like? Now, I'm a bit of a hypocrite here. The one on Sunday, I decided to take in some hills because that's what I'm doing on a lot of my longer runs at the moment. But yet again, I took a view on them, I ran them and attempted to have a quick walk at the top, regained my composure where it was hotter, took a drink. So everything was a little bit more relaxed and a little bit less intense. And that was done fully in mind, in purpose before I went. That was my decision. That was not something that I just made up as I went along. That was a decision before I went on the run. What you do the night before. It's all very well doing all this. If you're going to go out to a barbecue, knock back about 8 pints of beer because you're going to hydrate, you're going to be dehydrated next day. So you're going to be starting from a backwards point even before you started running. And most marathon training, long runs are done on a Sunday. What people do on a Saturday has a massive impact. Perhaps do your long run on another day if that's your desire. If you kind of like to party on a Saturday night, you don't go to bed too late on a Saturday because it's Saturday. I was sad. I was in bed by 9:15 on Saturday. I'm a sad kid, but I'm 58. But if you're younger or more gregarious than me and you like to party or, sink a few beers, then be mindful that, that you've got this long run. Maybe you want to limit that. Maybe you want to change the day. So they're my tips. Nothing mind bending, but for me, the main one I would say is forget pace, forget heart rate, or at least don't put them as your dominant metric. Look at effort. Obviously, hydration and getting out early is big, but also be honest with yourself. If you've got a 16-mile run, first ever 16-mile run you've ever done, it's boiling hot, it ain't going to feel like a 16-mile run. It's probably going to feel like an 18 or maybe a 20-mile run, depending on the terrain. So cut it back, do it another day, chunk it down, do whatever you need to do to just adapt to the surroundings. But remember, not all negative. If you do adapt to the heat, like I said earlier, it can actually be a positive, and you don't hear that a lot. You adapt your body to the heat, you get used to running in the heat. When it cools off, your body's like, this is easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So there is pluses, and you won't hear that. There's so much negativity about it, but it's how you approach the challenge that will ultimately mean if it becomes a negative, a positive, or just something that's fairly neutral. And that's the facts. So hope you enjoyed this. If you had, please give it a like or subscribe so you'll see more of my videos in the future. Bye for now.